Okay. So here, when you print these out, I would print them out and also have something else like to write on, possibly the TEKS themselves, because you can get that in like a PDF form now and print those out. But let's just take a look and dissect into this math standard. You said that math made you feel the least confident, so I feel like that's where we should start. For standard 12, and it makes up a particular domain, that math and English domain. Do you happen to recall which domain it is? It's like escaping.
I can go back and check.
Let me
It is
see.
domain 3.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, domain 3. So both standard 11 and 12 make up domain 3, and usually people have quite a lot of difficulty with domain 3 because they didn't look at the things beforehand and sort of play with the tools that you have. Remember those equations, those concepts, those are tools in order to help you on the day of the exam, but we have to practice with them before. So the special education teacher promoting the students' performance, helping them perform. The purpose of standard 12 is for the SPED teacher to help students rock at math. Find ways to help them rock at math. Everyone can rock at math. It's literally a fact. It's the way in which you see it and it connects in your brain, just like language. Language is something that is taught, it is practiced, it is modeled for us. We dissect it, we learn it all through school. I mean, we don't really stop learning about English language arts. That's the other portion that you need to do, right? Language. Math is the other end of it. It's the same, it's the universal language. It's the same everywhere. And so this is really about helping the students perform well in math, utilizing and making sure they get all of the supports that are by law first of all required. Like if it's a requirement that they have a support and accommodation, for sure those things are being those things are in place and being utilized in the classroom. But even further than that, understanding like what particular concepts give students difficulties, what things can we use and do we know work in order to help students make connection with these mathematical concepts, to help their brain understand them, applying those things. And so doing that is the whole gist of standard 12. And you should know each one and be able to say that. Like you should be able to say, okay, standard 1 is mostly about the history, the law, like societal implications having to do with special education in the classroom. That's what it's mostly about. Standard number 2 is mostly about this. You don't have to have them memorized, but you should feel pretty strong that when you're reading a question, you're able to say, I recognize what this is asking me about. Like, I know what they're on about, because you know what you're supposed to be able to do so well. So on the left-hand side, you have the things that the special education teacher, oops, I lost my handy dandy marker. Let me grab it back. So on the left-hand side, teacher knowledge, what you should know, you need to know these facts, skills, concepts pertaining to math, all of these, 12.1, 12.2, K, which is the knowledge. So we're going to take a look at the different areas. So 12.1 is you need to know, you need to understand, know, and understand, meaning that you can apply it in a real world setting. You don't just know it, but what are you going to do with it? You understand the implication of this knowledge and therefore can apply it in the classroom. So how children learn and develop mathematical skills? How do all children? And what about procedures? What about concepts? How do these things happen? How do we develop them in students? We know that there's a particular way in which we develop language. So too is there a particular way that we tackle and, explain math. We don't jump in kindergarten to adding and subtracting. That's not a thing. We're getting them to understand the idea of numbers, the idea of like, the cardinality, first, second, third, that numbers can be like actual numbers, and then also the word representative number. And so that then going on to more complex ideas. And you'll see that in the TEKS. You'll see that in kindergarten, the idea is not for them to become like math geniuses or even attempts to go there or pretend to go there. We're really understanding that they need to master this portion really well first and doing those things. So understanding that and the ways in which we teach, you need to understand mathematical methods and strategies that are appropriate for teaching with disability to reason mathematically, to solve mathematical problems, to make mathematical connections within and outside of mathematics, and to communicate mathematically. There are some instances where students have particular disabilities specific with mathematics. There are learning disabilities that are specific with English language arts and reading, right? That affect their ability to speak, their oral language proficiency, their reading proficiency, their writing proficiency, and so on. We utilize concrete, hands-on, visual, tactile, and concrete as in not thinking abstractly, because let's say, for instance, you had a group of students, ninth graders, and you need to get your students to do a multi-step math problem, like in order to do particular things. And so you have to really play it by ear based on the scenario and on the disability that has been identified. But there are things that we can always do in order to ensure students that have difficulties in math or disabilities with math do better, which is, always defining and utilizing the language connected to the things that we're doing. So if we're on step number 1, we're doing addition, which is adding or bringing two things together. So depending on where you are in age, you'll have to say it in a different way, but always reiterating steps, making them clear, putting the steps in paper in front of them, putting it on the board, saying it audibly for them who are listening, and obviously modeling it with them, utilizing manipulatives for math to help solve math problems. There are so many amazing manipulatives. Like, I went to elementary in the 80s, and so like late 80s, early 90s, and they had some math manipulatives, like just to do like the ones place, the tens place, and then like the hundreds place, and that's it. And you could like do different variations of those. That's it. There's so many more. There are manipulatives to help them visualize fractions and the way in which a multiplying of a fraction, what that visually looks like. Very cool stuff, and not high technology stuff with their hands that you teach them how to utilize. And there are videos. I'm actually gonna play one for you in just a little bit. When we take a break from this right here, after we get through this section, we're just gonna, and I don't know how much time we have. Oh, actually we have about 3 more minutes until my next person. It's okay. I don't think it's the same link though. We'll have to see. Numbers, number systems, their structure, operations, algorithms, quantitative reasoning, very important. There's going to be statistical stuff. There's going to be stats. We're going to say, what's the probability of this coming out? They want the kids to be good at probability. So they are going to make sure that you have ways in which you can help them and that you can do that particular math. So The patterns, relations, functions, algebraic reasoning. Remember, I told you you have to go all the way up to algebra, from very basic math and just teaching about like what numbers even are, all the way to algebraic, geometry, spatial reasoning, measurement concepts and principles, and technology appropriate to teach students. But to be honest with you, the best way to do things is use stuff in your environment. Take them on a field trip. My sister made this really great idea about taking them, to walk around and maybe at the basketball court or other places and have them find angles, if you're doing geometry, and have them in pairs and pair some of your higher kids with some of the students that need more help, and obviously make sure you're walking around and supporting, but so that you're utilizing the resources that you have in your classroom with your careful pairing, you're connecting it to real world, taking them out, like doing those things that help make connection and resonate with the student. Principal application of probability and statistics, and obviously the technology that we can use to help students with mathematic issues. We have some students that have dysgraphia. That is something that they suffer from. Are you familiar with that particular disability?
Yes, I was reading a little bit about it. I actually have, let's see if I can find it.
It affects a lot of students, especially in math. And think about it, if you're in an elementary math class, you have dysgraphia, and your teacher you're doing some word problems, and it's multiple steps, and you're not going to get, full credit if you just put the answer from the calculator.
It says right here, makes it
uh,
difficult to form letters and numbers.
right. And so if you have dysgraphia, you certainly should be able to skip having to write down the multiple steps in the math problem if you can give the correct answer with just the calculator, especially because the calculator, of course, is going to be part of that accommodation, more than likely, and making sure that they're fluent with utilizing it, they understand it. Once they understand the processes and the skills that they need for some of those simple operations, even the more complex algebraic and other operations, they become easier because they have learned to use the resource, which is the calculator. So something that certainly would include the technology appropriate to teach. That's for sure includes a calculator first and foremost, but there certainly are other things. So here's you putting that into play, doing it. This is your skill side, you actually doing what needs to be done for the students to thrive, to rock it out in math. That's what needs to happen. We have to use a variety of instructional methods. We can't just sit up there and just teach and model and that be it. There has to be activities, hands-on, going out places and looking for stuff, utilizing different resources to make connection between the math concepts, the real world, and the student's mind by really bringing it to life for them. So you need to do this using that variety of instructional strategies and resources like the ones I just mentioned to do number concepts. You have to do all that, what we just talked about, the different ways, tactile, showing them how to do the simple functions on the calculator for them to become more proficient, so that multiple step stuff doesn't become an issue, especially for those with dysgraphia. Doing that for patterns in algebra, doing that same types of instructional methods, trying to bring in real worlds, tactile experiences, pairing them with other students, high performing students, and again for probability and statistics. And then in this area here, just get a little bit, you have to be able to use a variety of instructional methods again, and this is pedagogy, and the resources to help students engage in mathematical reasoning and problem solving, to apply mathematics in a variety of contexts. And I already gave you some of those because you want them to go out and measure things and do all sorts of stuff. You know, I had a special ed teacher that was one of my interns a few years ago, actually like 4 years ago, and they were their first year of a life skills, and they did their math, all of it, and it was so good via creating a coffee club. They went around, they took a survey, they interviewed, they practiced oral language proficiency, they found the prices of things added. It was just amazing, and it lasted all year long. So it was very, very cool. And communicating mathematically, getting them to talk in that language, to say the things that they're doing, even if they can't write out the multiple steps, to certainly be able to verbalize that to you, and utilize the vocabulary. Okay, so at first I, moved, I collected like terms on one side, and then I subtracted, and then from there I divided, and then, or whatever. So that they are communicating mathematically and accessing that language, making a connection between the language and the skill. Provide mathematics instruction that is based on principles of children learning and development. We talked about all kids, period, even adults. I'm telling you, I've been watching some of these math lessons just with my students during some of our sessions. And I'm like, if my third grade teacher had done this for me, I would have been valedictorian. Like, it just illustrated math so much better. But everybody learns in that way, and being able to see it and have your brain understand it in that way is very important. And so illustrating, showing them, doing activities that, again, illustrate the process, illustrate what's happening mathematically, very important, because we know all children are concrete learners, like, basically EC through ever. At some point you do get to thinking abstractly, you can think abstractly. However, it takes a while. You have to have more experiences. You have to have more prior knowledge to be able to what if and abstract and extrapolate in your brain without and then to be able to do it in a way that's meaningful or on point. So the kids are not there yet. And they need to see the way that things happen, the way a plant grows, the way that, fractions work when they're being multiplied, and some of the stuff that's available is really awesome. And reflects on recognition of common misconceptions and sources of error in mathematics. So things that are commonly difficult in mathematic instruction for students, common misconceptions and sources of error in mathematics. My sister, like I said, was talking to a teacher who was saying that, they weren't allowed to use the calculator only on the assessments. And my sister says, then if he's using it on his state assessment, then he needs to be using it on every single activity. He needs to be an expert, like a fast draw at the hip with his calculator. How is he going to use his resource if he's never practiced it in the classroom? You can't say you cannot use your calculator for my assignments, for my quizzes, if the student needs it on their IEP for the state exam. That it has to be practiced on every activity. That means they need that in order to do well with the TEKS when they're in contact with any TEKS. So making sure that we understand what it means when they say that the student has certain resources, that resources is always, then we should be having them become practice experts utilizing those resources. And then the variety of assessments that we use, the different methods. We always have to be checking for understanding, always checking for understanding. Where are they? We don't just instruct out of nowhere. typically we have some data that we look at and we see like, where were you last year? How did you do on the assessment I gave? I see you have like difficulty, with multiplication and division, or, whenever there's like more than one digit in the number. Sorry, oh my goodness, it's my other. Hi, Miss Hernandez. I am going to email you right now a link because it's for special ed as well. Right. Okay, and I'm actually in a special ed session right now, and I just wanted for you to just join in with us. I know it sent you another yeah, it sent you another link, and it probably says she is somewhere else or something like that, right? I'm sorry. And I knew that would happen. Let me see. I don't know why it did that. I wish it would have just, done it everybody at the same time. That's so. Okay, so I'm going to send it to you, and you'll see it in your email right this second. Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye. That was it's another special ed, and it was supposed to be all 1 hour, and I don't know why it like chopped it up and did that.
That's fine. I could probably stay with you till about like 2:10 because I have to go pick up my daughter. I try to get to school early because the line is ridiculous.
Oh, I know. I have to go today, but I get to go a little bit later because they're in the Spanish club, and today is their, oh my God, but that doesn't mean I can be late. I still have to go. I have to go pick up having a party, and so I wanted to bring pan dulce. Like, I thought it was a good idea, but then my dog needed a C-section, all this other stuff happened, and so now my life is in an upheaval, and I'm all like, oh my God, why did I agree to do these things? But it's fun. It's important, in my opinion, for them to stay in for them to, stay using and learning about Spanish, even though we're in San Antonio and we don't get to practice so much. Okay. So we've been talking about the mathematical section, and I will upload the rest of it, Miss Hernandez. So you could watch the before when we talked about the rest of the math and we sort of dissected this one.
Okay.
But so I just pointed out, and I wanted to, again, really quickly, let me see if it'll let me do it this way. I guess not. Okay, so here it is, and we're looking at the skills section. And here are the how do I sorry, ladies. So I wanted just to show you side by side, but it's not working. Here it is. So here I went to the math, and remember, you have to help them in all of these different areas regarding their math instruction. If you look at kindergarten, you're going to see these areas. You're gonna see the goals here. The primary focus areas in kindergarten are understanding counting and cardinality, understanding addition as joining, and subtraction as separating, and comparing objects by measurable attributes. So something that they have to do, but you're going to start seeing these names in each of the TEKS that they are responsible for in each grade level. Number operations. You're going to have algebraic reasoning and patterns. You're going to have the geometry and measurement. You're going to have data analysis. Oh, this says personal literacy, and this will change. The wording will change a little bit from this data analysis and personal finance to something more probability and statistics. You'll see how that a little bit changes as it develops and is more challenging. So again, you have, this is 4th grade. And you have the primary focus area in 4th grade. What is what is the most thing that they should learn in 4th grade? And you should have that written down somewhere on your standards 12. Like each one of them have like in 4th grade, this is the main thing that they're learning, like this, so that you know, okay, in 4th grade, they're doing this. In 5th grade, they're doing that, because they're going to say on the exam, Miss Sauceda's 7th grade class is having difficulty with multiple step problems. 2 of the students have mathematical disabilities, and so that you're going to have to know what should they be doing at this grade level, and what disabilities have they stated do they have, and what supports do I know I should be providing. To be honest with you, I feel like every lesson should be taught like we're all special ed, like all of us. And I'm special ed. I have ADHD, so that would make me special ed. And gifted and talented is special ed, but all of the ways to visually to connect in a concrete way in order to make mind abstractions is the way that everyone learns best. And so when I teach PPR, I usually tell people best practices for everyone are typically special ed and ELL practices. If you account for them, you're really touching base with a lot and supporting a lot of students. Even our non-identified students. So here you have those same words that we see in your mathematics standards here. You have number concepts. You have patterns in algebra, geometry and measurement concepts. And so now let's take a look briefly before I have to go, ladies. I'll run off to a dulceria or like a pan dulce place. Oh, it's here already. These here, which I'm going to put in when I get home this evening, so they will for sure be there by tomorrow. But these different math assessments for you to take a look at. It's good for you to look at what sort of things are they going to be using? What sort of tools, what sort of tasks are they going to be doing? Measurement tasks, conversion tasks, graphing tasks. And it's a good review, especially the ones that come with a year that comes with this rationale here. And so I would at first take the test like it's a real test, just to practice and like brush up and utilize the tools, right? The equations and whatnot. And then I would go back and look at the rationale and use it as a study tool in that way. Now, mind you, every single special ed student will have to take their STAR exams. They have to take their STAR exams on grade level. There is no none of this, changing it or watering it down or teaching it at a different grade level. You must teach the grade level they are at. You have to bring in supports to be able to do that. So some of these math ones don't have it. Oh, well, this one kind of still does, but some of the really, really older ones, 2013, oh, they don't have it, but that was reading anyway. Let's take a look at one that's a little bit more challenging. Let's look at 5th grade. So they have to use these tools. They need to know the parameter, rectangle, square, how to find it. They have to be able to find area of a square and a rectangle. That means that you have to also be pretty fluent with these same concepts that they have to do. They also have to be able to convert. You have to be able to show them how to do these things illustratively. So good practice for just brushing up on some of those questions, but not necessarily for the instruction portion of it. For the instruction portion of it, like I said, I would like for you to access the YouTube channel. And I don't know that you've seen some of the videos already if you've been watching this special ed, but for instance, math 4 through 8, I'll take a look at these manipulatives, and manipulatives for 4th and 5th graders can still be used for junior high students to help them understand particular math concepts better in a sort of multi-step fashion. Oh, I like that. I like that guy's voice. Some people like find him annoying.
I'd like to smell my beard.
I just want to show it to you very quickly, and that there are several
if we should use them, if they are better than base 10 blocks because they're easier to manage. You can use them because that's taught in
base 10 blocks are the ones that I utilize.
Really allows you talk about a decimal and you say it the way that you were supposed to say it. So 0.1 is 1/10. A decimal is a part of a whole and fractions are part of a whole. So we want students to be able to make connections between fractions and place value to build their understanding of decimals. Now, the reason I love base 10 blocks for decimals is the same reason I love base 10 blocks for place value. They are flexible. So instead of this representing one whole, we can now make this one whole. And when we ask students what the value of this rod is compared to the whole, they realize that it is 1/10 of the whole. Now, 1/10 meaning fraction 1/10 or decimal 1/10, which is 0.1. So
that's easy enough and illustrative to get like a 10th, that fraction, percentage wise, illustrate with the students to get them to see the connection between 3 different concepts and skills. Same idea, same, the percentage and the fraction and the decimal. I think these are the ones that I want.
Must-have math manipulatives for 4th and 5th grade are going to be your base 10 blocks, your pattern blocks, and then your connecting cubes. Obviously, the nice to have math manipulatives for upper grades are place value discs and money. So I want you to do an audit of the math manipulatives that you have in your classroom. Every upper elementary math
I
teacher
don't
should
know
have
if she
at
has
least one math tool for every core concept. That
here it is.
Trapezoid, you can see just visually, just by looking at it, that this trapezoid is half of the hexagon. And because they are unlabeled, just like our place value discs, that gives students the opportunity to be really, really flexible with them. It also gives you a chance to really challenge your students as far as their thinking goes with fractions. While I love my fraction tiles, they can be a crutch because students can look at a fraction tile that says 1/2, and they don't have to really do any reasoning or thinking behind why that 1/2 is on that specific tool. Here, on the other hand, if you were to ask a student, what is the value of this? And they say 1/2, and you ask them, why is it 1/2? They are going to have to relate back to the size of the whole. That is a really important skill or way of thinking for students to have. They need to be able to make that connection between the size of the part and the size of the whole. And while fraction tiles—
and that visualization, like I said before, it is so important for anybody. It literally makes it better for everyone, but especially our students that have mathematic learning difficulties, so that I'm so sorry, Brenda, I'm going to upload this and then we'll have another one next week. I do think you should at least push it back maybe a week. If not, if you feel you can watch through these and sort of brush up and you feel confident, keep that date, it's up to you. You are the best decider of your preparedness, the best assessor. Like our students, we want them to be good assessors, which is why we practice self-assessment, because you are the best resource for me knowing whether or not you are prepared. So there are the special ed videos here, but please take the time to look at the math 4 through 8 videos, the ELAR 4 through 8 videos to touch up on some of those standards, same things that you're gonna have to be discussing and looking over, and being able to like be competent in as far as applying it as from a special education teacher's professional standards. And I will see you ladies next week. If you want, you can also come in to my office hours every Tuesday and Thursday from 9 to 11 in the morning. I'm available for you to come in and we can dissect or tackle any skill or area.
Okay, and I'll let you know if I decide
Thank you.
to postpone my test.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just let me know. And